Checking. Yeah, we're live.
Okay, we're live again.
All right, I'll be honest with you. I don't remember exactly what we were talking about before, but let's just keep going on the conversation. There's a lot to talk about, really.
Sure.
But
you said you weren't even at question 2, right?
What was that?
You weren't even at question 2.
Yeah, we have like they all kind of interact with each other, but I'll get to it in a minute. But I told you some time ago that JP Morgan did a study in 2012. I can't remember exactly if it was 2012, but it said that by 2030, 45% of marriageable women, meaning ages between 18 and 45, will be single and childless by 2030. But
okay.
Apparently,
how 40%?
45%.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, in 2021, there was a record-breaking 52% of American women were either unmarried or separated, according to a Wells Fargo report. Childlessness in 2022, 46.8% of women in the U.S. were childless, according to Statista. Now, Morgan Stanley predicts that 45% of women between 25 and 44 will be single by 2030.
Okay.
But if
all right.
I think, yeah, you're fine. Thanks for showing your ass. You should have twerked a little bit. Short break. Matthew is having some personal issues. He's drinking some coffee. He'll be back. In the meantime, I hope you can follow along in this conversation. Try to understand that, yes, while a lot of this is my personal perspective and his personal perspective, sometimes there's little nuggets that you can kind of gain from the conversation without judging yourself or others about what you should or should not believe in. So, thank you for tuning in. Let's carry on. The only reason I was mentioning that statistic, by the way, is because it kind of leads to a lot of the conversation around family and societies as a whole, and how it will be. I heard some time ago that back in the day, only until recently, essentially until the invention of the birth control pill, that about 80% of women used to have children, used to carry on lineages, but only 40% of men used to carry on lineages because the women would select with which children obviously would come to life. But now the trends are becoming so.
Hold on, say that again.
I heard
80% of women have children.
Back in the day, like until essentially the birth control.
60s.
Prior to that, yeah. But even during times of massive war, women, about 80% of them would still carry on children.
Carry on children? You mean they have children? Yeah. Okay.
I'm assuming most of them were married in some shape or form, right?
Well, obviously they were impregnated, but
yeah.
We don't really know the specifics.
We don't know the specifics, but it's safe to assume that we kind of know how one thing became the other based on how it was carried out back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? Single women or unmarried women were shamed or something like that for not being married?
I don't know.
Something along the lines, and then only about 40%.
It was it was culturally acceptable and promoted for women to have children.
Now, onto modernity. Do you think people should be shamed in one way or another if I'm talking about both men and women, they should be shamed in one shape or another if they decide not to get married and not have children?
I don't think so.
Funny enough, I don't think so either. You know why?
No.
If the topic of the day, meaning today, is everybody has the freedom to do whatever, then that literally means we have the freedom to do whatever. Does that make sense?
You know, I love it when you state the obvious.
But I mean, this really goes into the conversation of, do we really want to prescribe the ideal for the society to be do whatever you want, or there's actual duties that people must fulfill?
Well, you know, seriously?
Seriously.
This is not the military. We're not taking orders. Well, what are you shrugging your shoulder for? Our society is not a militaristic society. It's not China with their, one-child policy or whatever the hell goes on. It's not North Korea. It's not South Korea. It's America. And it may be an unfortunate outcome if a lot of women don't want to have children. But
it's the thing we chose to do, essentially.
They chose to do. They chose to do.
And I talked to you about this before, that I used to believe that all women should actually aspire to have children in a stable family. But now I genuinely believe that a lot of women simply do not want to have children, and I think it should stay that way.
Fine. Why?
Personal freedom. It's all about personal freedom.
Are you being sarcastic?
Yes and no. But realistically
Either
speaking,
yes or no.
I'll say why. It's a 50-50 thing. My take is this. If we are going to pursue personal freedom, there can be no duties assigned to that personal freedom, because it's all about personal free will. So you cannot assign me a duty if I'm deciding to do something that involves my freedom.
Yeah, who assigns the duty anyway?
That's the point. So now we go back
No,
to...
that's not the point.
Wait.
Who assigns the duty?
So my point
Nobody
is
does.
with that question, do you follow a moral code or you don't? Because if you have personal freedom without duties, that means you cannot really have a moral code, because your freedom could mean do bad things as well.
I mean, this is arguable because you're stating gross generalizations.
I mean, we need generalizations to make policy about everything.
No, you need specifics to make policy.
Not really.
Yeah. Policy is specific.
Yeah, it's about numbers.
We're making policy. We're doing this. We have a reason. We have an agenda. We have a goal. That's why we make the policy.
But you make policies. Well,
you don't make policies on gross generalizations.
I think you do.
I don't. Name one.
Crime. Crime is bad. So generally speaking, we're going to incarcerate everybody who commits a crime. That's a generalization.
But there's specific crimes. You know.
I get it.
I mean, yeah. No, there's.
If we're talking about the concept of generalization, we actually run our lives based on generalizations, not specifics.
I disagree with you, but we carry on. Let's go to the next question. Because sometimes,
I just get over in my head.
It's like, to argue with a fool is, foolish.
No, I mean, the idea behind we really structure our lives based on generalizations, I think it's more true often than not.
Okay, fine. I don't agree, but go ahead. Fine. Next question. Next question. I'm gonna let Sarah. Sarah's gonna watch this, and she's gonna give her opinion. And I want to hear her opinion.
Sure, that's fine. All right. Let's start here. Do we have personal freedom, absolute personal freedom, or do we have duties and responsibilities as humans?
We got duties and responsibilities.
Perfect.
You say absolute freedom as if they're disconnected.
Well, the thing is, if you have absolute freedom, you cannot have duties assigned to you.
Not necessarily.
No, I mean,
you can say
it's all about me.
No. If you can say no, see, freedom does not necessarily mean you're irresponsible. You're kind of saying if you have absolute freedom, you're going to be irresponsible and not care about anything. That's a huge presumption on your part.
So if there is freedom, then that means there has to be responsibilities. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm not saying anything.
Okay.
But we do take responsibility, and we also have freedoms. What's absolute freedom mean?
Absolute freedom is you do not have duties and responsibilities attached to it.
I don't know if that's a proper description or definition of absolute freedom.
So what I mean is, in a society, we either go down the path of duties and responsibilities or personal freedom. That's what I'm saying. But I
think it's a little bit of both. A little bit of both. You have personal freedoms to choose this responsibility, choose this duty.
Do you think there is a case where duties and responsibilities completely contradict your personal freedom?
See, there you go. You're not really defining personal freedom. And then you're saying
it's all about what you choose to do regardless of whatever else is out there. That's personal freedom.
Well, what if you choose to take responsibility and do your duties?
So that's why
That's a
I'm trying
choice.
to say. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's a choice.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't think they contradict each other.
So first
You're saying they contradict. You should say if a person who is totally irresponsible drug addict, okay, that's one thing. They're going to have problems. But just a person who has a lot of personal freedom, they can make choices. That doesn't necessarily mean they're irresponsible. You kind of seem to implicate that if a person has absolute personal freedom, they're just going to not care about anything. And I don't agree with that.
I wasn't saying that,
but you're saying you are saying that. You are saying that.
Wait. Let's start again.
You are saying that.
I said that is. I'm actually trying to remember my question, but it was on the lines of. What did I say about personal freedom? Absolute personal freedom.
Can something about if you have absolute personal freedom, can you have duties and responsibilities?
That was my first question, and the only reason I said this is then I was saying, do you think that at some point down the line, in whatever we do or how we behave or think, that your duties and responsibilities will contradict your personal freedom? Like it's this middle ground that you cannot reconcile.
It could and it could not.
So my point of this is actually quite simple. Is it better to have absolute freedom, or is it better to have rules, responsibilities, duties? If you only had to choose one. Sounds good.
But no, you say absolute freedom. You say absolute freedom as that, it's like absolute freedom means you're totally irresponsible. That's not what absolute freedom means. But that's what you're saying. No, but that's what you're saying it means.
We're not talking about irresponsibility.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. You're saying absolute freedom means you're an irresponsible person. Because you're putting these two things. You have absolute freedom, and then you have duties and responsibilities.
Sure.
As if they're two distinct things, and I don't think they are. I think you can have freedom and duties and responsibilities.
What I do think is that when you have duties, specifically duties, it's less about your personal freedom. If that makes sense.
I don't know. Sometimes these concepts. Well, I hope so, because it sounds like you're going around in circles right down the drain.
So the reason I'm saying this is
with a big doogie on it.
I may be wrong. I may be mischaracterizing America, but I think the way society is progressing, it's becoming more about personal freedom rather than duties and responsibilities.
It's been that way for a long time.
So what I'm saying is.
What are you saying?
Because this goes back into the topic of masculinity, right? This goes to my question. Do you think men have an implied duty that they cannot get rid of, that they have to do it regardless because they're men?
What?
Protection.
What?
Serving.
What?
Their families, their societies.
What's the question? What's the question again?
Do men have implied duties?
I almost feel like I'm talking with a psycho here.
Thank you. Do you think men have implied duties and responsibilities to their families, to their societies?
Sure.
Do you think they can get rid of it? Do you think they can get rid of it for absolute freedom, meaning that they don't have those duties and responsibilities?
Why would they want to do that?
That's I guess
because once again, you're saying absolute freedom. That's the wrong word. Irresponsible is the word you're looking for.
I mean, if we're talking specifically about the case of protection, let's say that a man chooses never to protect its family physically, if we're going down that route. Do you think that is something that men could do from a identity perspective?
It depends on the person. This wholesale stuff of this and that or this opposed to that, it's so general and so obtuse that it's not even worth approaching to answer the question. It's not specific enough. It's not.
Okay.
There's no value there. It's like a nonsensical question. You gotta get focused here. Because I'm starting to get unfocused. I'm starting to get
Let's
bored.
say all men.
I'm starting to get annoyed.
I have to ask you these questions.
No, you don't have to ask me this question. I certainly don't have to respond.
You don't have to.
But you better start coming up with more intelligent, specific questions instead of these obtuse parallel universe.
Hold on.
No, you're not getting there. You're not even getting close.
Let me ask the question first. Then at least give me an answer that you think is pretty reasonable.
I have been trying to answer your questions, however obtuse and nonsensical they are.
I'm asking you, first of all.
I understand that you're asking me.
Is there certain duties and responsibilities that men have towards society and their families? You said yes, right?
I would say yes.
Okay. Now I'm asking you, what happens in this case if men decide they're not going to follow along with those duties and responsibilities?
I don't know.
Do we actually have a society?
Certainly we have a society.
Do you think at that point there's a high possibility, if we're talking from the perspective of serving and protecting the nation, that a foreign nation will invade that nation? Highly likely or highly unlikely?
That's like I say, it's like a nonsensical question.
What if the men decide?
Well, I know what you're trying to say. It's like, patriarchy is going down, and men are not acting like that, and men are not willing to take responsibility. Then a foreign country, possibly Muslim, will invade without even punching a nose.
I'm actually thinking China, but my point is
China. I mean,
But I want you to follow along my rational train of thought here. Right?
But there's no rational thought.
I'm getting
That's
there.
what the thing. No, you're not. It's not. I disagree. I'm listening to you. The more I listen, the more I realize it's not rational.
Hold on. I'm getting there. I promise.
It's irrational.
You're not letting me finish.
Of course you're finished. You're asking the questions.
I'm saying men have implied duties and responsibilities. No problem. Now I'm asking. Shit. Sorry. Now I'm asking, what happens if men would abandon those rules and responsibilities, duties?
I don't know.
Okay.
It'd be chaos. It'd be chaotic.
Do you think men...
What specific duties are you talking about?
I mean, if we have to jot it down, serving and protecting the nation, their family.
Serving and protecting. You think that's just going to go away overnight or over a period of...
If men stop doing it, do you think women could do it?
There are Amazon cultures. Big, strong women
who
will kick your ass. Kick your ass.
You
think you're this macho guy.
It's not about
I could probably half a dozen. They'd be do a flying kick
women who
and
can kick my ass, but is that the majority of women? No.
Of course not.
But the majority of men could kick the ass of the majority of women.
Yeah, because they're physically stronger.
So my point with that question, that line of protection and serving of the nation, is if men decide to quit those duties and responsibilities.
No, but it's such a far cry from reality.
I get that.
I mean, it's like if all the guys decided to put on dresses and put on makeup, are they going to continue to protect our society? And of course not.
Is it a fair question?
No, it's not a fair question.
Why wouldn't it be?
It's a nonsensical question because it's never going to happen.
Hypothetical.
It's like, will there come a day when you can just go into Walmart and take whatever you want? Hell no, motherfucker.
Wait,
why do you even ask such a question?
Now, the reason I'm asking
you always say that, I'm leading up to something, but I'm afraid so far.
Yeah.
You're not getting to a sensible point.
Men have a duty and responsibility to protect society and their families because there's an implied gain that they get from this duty and responsibility. There's a certain authority that they get for protecting their families, the nations. They're recognized in society, they're recognized in their families as some form of leader. I think that's pretty fair characterization. Now my question is, what happens when society does not reward the men who protect and serve the nation? That's my question.
Not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
I think it's not even a far-fetched idea anymore.
It's not going to happen.
I think you would be surprised.
I am not surprised. I've been around for a little bit longer than you have.
Yeah.
I've seen cultural changes. I've been all over the country. I've fundraised all over the country. I've had a lot of interaction with a lot of people, whether it's through business or fundraising. You, however, have been a little bit isolated and insulated. So your concepts come from, I don't know where. You get them from YouTube videos or this or that, and it's like a certain, let's go down this conspiratorial rabbit hole, let's go down this rabbit hole, let's go down this rabbit hole. So you're kind of seeking information or data that kind of props up your envision or what you see as the future. I just really disagree, because there may be segments of society that, okay, so they're having the Great Parade in San Francisco. Big fucking deal. Only about 10% of the population is homosexual, right?
I guess.
They may try to dominate the public forum or entertainment or whatever, because they're trying to justify their existence and like, hey, we're normal too, fine, whatever. Go fuck yourself, But you're like narrowly focused on this thing as if this is mainstream activity, mainstream happening all across the country.
Actually, that's not
and
what
it's
I
like
said.
and I say no.
I'm saying that there is a possibility. There's a high possibility.
There's a possibility that the world destroys itself tomorrow.
You remember what I told
what
you
about
before?
it?
You remember what I told you before about?
I have no idea.
All right, I'm going to say it again if I didn't say that. The statistic about women become childless, unmarried by a certain age, by a certain time.
Fine.
My point is this: if genuine men.
Okay, you're saying
interest,
the women are already skirting their responsibility to have children and be engaged, and what happens if men do the same thing? I don't know. Does the world cease to exist because 40% of Western women don't want to have kids?
So this is the thing.
I'm asking you a question. Does the world cease to exist because 40% of Western women don't want to have children?
I think the possibility of a foreign nation taking over ours is higher. Sure.
I didn't ask that.
But that's the conclusion.
So that's the context you're putting it in.
Sure. That is the context I'm putting in. So if our own native people who live in the United States, refuse to have children, not married,
that's the way the cookie crumbles.
That is the way
If you're a weak person, health-wise, you get invaded by bacteria. If you're a weak country, you're going to be invaded by other things. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's nothing new. This is not groundbreaking.
No, I get it.
Structure, whatever,
Yeah,
but what's your point? You have this vision of this cataclysmic, dysfunctional, dystopian future based on the fact that women are skirting their responsibilities and then men may decide to do the same thing. Well, it might change. Like, not everybody was interested in going to war, but when World War II happened, people stepped up.
Yeah.
They just basically finished with World War I, and then World War II comes knocking at the door. And they were obviously, the countries didn't want to participate, but it became pretty obvious that if they didn't, the results would be disastrous.
Yeah.
So, like, what are you trying to say? I mean, I know you're trying to say, well, I've got these statistics that show that 40% of women are not having babies, and then if the men skirt their responsibility to defend and protect their families, the nation, and unwilling to pick up a pistol and shoot at another enemy, we got some real problems. I agree with you, but I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen.
I think back in the day,
when you say back in the day, what are you talking about?
I guess 20 years ago. Just 20 years ago.
20 years ago isn't back in the day, dude. You got to go back to the 60s.
Follow what I'm
No,
trying to
you
tell
got to go back to the 60s.
Okay.
Okay, that was a cultural.
Men, even if they weren't related to this woman and they saw a woman in trouble, would those men jump in the line of fire to help that woman out? Yes or no? Majority of men.
When?
60s.
To this day. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Happens all the time.
I have noticed the trend, especially in younger
Notice
men.
a trend, huh?
Yeah. I've noticed
and how do you notice this trend from your home?
Videos.
Okay, this is all stuff
studies.
coming over. I just want to let people know in this podcast, most of your information is coming from the internet.
I mean, that's the best way to gather information.
That's the best way to gather. It's the easiest way to gather some information, whether it's valid, tested, peer reviewed. It's just like Kiniko getting her fucking recipes from the internet. I said, I don't trust the fucking thing that comes off the internet. Some little pretty face can get up there and say, this is the best coffee cake you can get in the whole world. I say, bullshit on that. I'll go to my Cooks Illustrated because there is a cadre of chefs and cuisine people who have vetted this bullshit recipe, and it turns out it's pretty good. And that's the same thing with your information, dude. I would question it. I don't think you're skeptical enough. I think you have no, you're not. I think you have preconceptions because of the way you're raised, and then you just. Of course it was. How can you not introduce the way you were raised, especially in the Unification Church, which is very unique, in some ways very strange and awkward.
I'll explain.
How can you not accommodate at least some of that?
Yeah.
Because so none of my kids were raised in the church because I thought the church was too fucking weird, especially when it came to raising families. So I didn't want to introduce them to people who didn't know the first thing about raising kids, starting with Reverend Moon and Mrs. Moon. Okay? So there's no, I mean, I came from basically a normal family.
Yeah.
Kind of normal for a dad that was this and a mom that was that and brothers and sisters that were that, but I had a pretty good idea of how to raise my family. And it certainly wasn't under the auspices of the church.
Yeah.
Because what I saw was a lot of strangeness, a lot of ignorance, a lot of dysfunction. So you have to at least acknowledge that part of your upbringing.
I'm not disregarding the fact that history plays a part in how you think. No question.
I'm talking about personal history,
my personal history.
Not Napoleonic history. I'm talking about your personal history with your siblings, with your parents, under the circumstances. They were pretty fundamental Moonies, right? You were raised in New Guinea, which is very unusual. That certainly played a big part in your view of life.
Yeah. So
I'm just saying. You know.
This is what I'm saying.
Okay, what are you saying?
The men of tomorrow are a complete different breed. I'm talking the ones that are 10 years old right now, maybe 5 to 10 years old, and then the next generation of marriageable men.
It just depends. It just depends on how they're raised.
No,
you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
I have 7 kids, and 8 going on 9 grandkids, and just right down the line. I have a very great deal of confidence that these men who are the male counterpart of the relationship, whether they're married, significant others, whatever, no problems.
You see, that's where I think it's going to be different for the future.
Well, everything's going to be different in the future. It's a whole different thing.
Getting somewhere.
I know you're getting somewhere, but you're taking a long time.
You're doing it very, man.
Of course I let you finish.
Hold on. All right, this is what I'm going to say. I think your perspective is definitely in line with what I can understand how you've lived your experience. But the thing is,
my perspective is valid for me.
What I'm saying is, the future is so different than what even I understand. And what I mean by that,
Don't know.
I think.
Can you predict the future?
You cannot. But this future that we're entering into, and this is what I mean by this future, men are going to be the most critical figures in society that will ever have existed. Men in the past, they had the way of doing things and being.
They weren't critical in the past? I totally disagree with you. I think men have been critical since the Stone Age.
Do you think that?
And they have impacted human culture in incredible ways.
Do you think that men were critical in the past and then kind of mellowed out in the...
What do you mean critical in the past?
Critical as in what they would judge the world to be.
I don't think they've changed that much.
Do you think they kind of mellowed out through these times that we're living in right now?
Well, you might have mellowed out because, you don't have to fight saber-toothed tigers. You don't have to go out and kill a bear to feed your family. And you just walk into Walmart and buy some steak. So that
how they judge society, sorry. Like how do you society is progressing. This is how we want it to be made. So this is how it's going to be.
Well, obviously they're participants in it. They're participants in the society that they live in.
Wait, would it be fair to say that men were ruling society back in the day with pretty vigorous, I would say, like, this is the way it is, no changing, no question.
Well, yeah, there's been changes culturally in the way, it's like it used to be life was brutal and short. It's not that way now.
Do you think that since essentially the sexual revolution, which I'm not sure what age is that?
60s. Come on,
right?
Get with the program. The 60s, motherfucker.
So
LSD, marijuana, women burning their bras, guys burning their, draft cards. The 60s.
All right.
God.
Now here's my point about this.
Okay,
question.
would you
Do you
remember
think during that
that
period, the sexual revolution until, let's say, just say today, do you think men have been pretty mellowed out in critiquing society? Like, just like, whatever kind of flows?
I don't think so. I think there's plenty of critique out there. I think there's plenty of interaction. I mean, Joe Rogan, whatever, all these kind of podcasts, all this stuff that goes on, these YouTube influencers, stuff like that. It's just a constant, and maybe the medium change. No, tell me to wait. The medium may change, but obviously there's criticism. There's critical review of what's going on. You got conservatives, you got liberals, you got people in between, you got political ambitions. Of course there's critical review all the time.
Do you think that there's been a increase of wussification?
A sea change?
Just like weak men to their wives specifically.
I don't really know. I
think
can
in
tell
the
you
past it was like that?
I can tell you
before the 60s?
don't really know because I was just a kid.
If you had to judge it, do you think men in the past were subservient to their women the way we perceive it today?
Men in the past subservient to women? I don't really see that.
If you think about it, do you think
even thinking about it, I don't see it.
Like,
I don't think
true?
men were subservient to
so
women.
If you had to describe today,
what's the question?
All right, when we observe people of the church specifically, what do you think of them? They're walked all over.
That's too. The church is too much of a weird. It's not a good cross section of society. Like I say, we're going to stop this and we're going to roll over to Walmart. We're going to walk around and see what we see. Okay. Just to kind of put a reality check on this bombastic interview.
Okay, this is what I observe. Now, since you
because you're and most of your observation, let's admit, comes from the internet.
I don't think it's internet.
Yeah, because you don't get out, you don't work, you stay at home most of the time.
I have eyes and ears.
Yeah, but where do you go? You don't go out to eat. You don't fundraise.
Sometimes.
You don't fundraise.
I mean,
You're not interacting. You're not interacting. I know you see what you see, but you're very prejudiced.
Everybody's prejudiced.
Yeah, but you're very prejudiced.
Everybody has biases.
That's true, but you have,
Everything that we think is a bias against something else. Everything.
Not necessarily.
All right.
I like French toast. That doesn't mean I'm biased against pancakes. Because I like pancakes too.
That's because you're biased for eating pancakes. It's the same bullshit.
No. I just don't see it.
So what I was trying to explain to you with asking you the questions about men in the past versus today versus the future is I think what's going on is that because of the sexual revolution, men kind of mellowed out and they kind of accepted that, people have their own personal freedom. So men are kind of coming to terms with that. But I think what's going to happen is it's going to go back up. There's going to be a massive pendulum swing where men are going to be the authoritarians, the critiques of society, where this is the rule and there's nothing else going to happen. I think that's what's going to end up happening.
In what? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years?
It's really hard to predict, but I think maybe 2 generations is pretty accurate. 2 generations is going to change people drastically.
I'd like to write that shit down, put a date on it, and make your predictions. And I think your prediction is going to be off because you have this paranoia about patriarchal.
Really.
Yeah, I think it is about patriarchal, and you don't have that much experience. That's the whole thing. You don't have that much experience.
Well,
you got 3 little daughters. One's a baby, and the other 2 are toddlers. You are kind of isolated in a way, socially. I mean, you don't have the, you're not going out and having barbecues and going out in the boat and fishing with your buddies and stuff like that. So I think you have a little bit of a narrow viewpoint, and it's more informed by the past, even then more than the present, except for what you see in terms of data and YouTube stuff and the internet, which I think the internet is like a cesspool.
Sure.
There's more garbage. It's just like TV. You're going to have to look all night to find a program that's edifying, because most of it's just garbage.
This is what
and
I do
the
take from
internet is almost the same. So you got to pick and choose very carefully, or I think you can get a lot of toxic bullshit that's
this is what I
not
have observed from
informed.
the internet. Take it as true or not, but I observe a lot of behaviorism. The way people behave, I think it's just a response on how they live their lives. Like
Of course.
one trend that I've noticed is that a lot of women who are divorced or are going through trauma, they like to express it in social media, whether it's for appreciation, you're going through some rough stuff, and I want to
See, that's where you got me, because I have no experience watching the internet for women who have divorced, who are espousing who are bitching or moaning or whatever they're doing. See, I don't even go there.
What I'm trying to tell you is, I think the internet just shows how people really feel inside, so they express what they want.
Well,
because it's essentially
I would agree with you, but then, this is one interview, this is 10 interviews, but how many millions of people's experience are out there? Well, I'm going to weight this person. I kind of dig what she's saying, so I'm going to say she represents 50% of the women out there. You can't do that.
I will do a caveat for what I was saying in congruence with what you're saying, and that is, I do think genuine people are not online. That is very true.
I think the people might be online and genuine, but you're just getting such a sliver of human reality out there.
But what
I mean,
I'm
you
trying
say
to
you get it, but
I get what
it's
you're
like,
saying.
I watch porn channels. All these guys are interested in porn. What's up with that? It's like, there's such a diversity of human experience out there. Obviously, some of it is kind of, we can say it's broad and it's a generalization. It represents a certain aspect of human experience.
Yeah.
But to start making judgments based on this little lady bitching here, and this little guy bitching and moaning here, and this little guy bitching and moaning here, and then some guy named, I think his last name is Stefan or something, and he's bitching and moaning about something. It's like, that is going to skew your reality.
So regardless of what we're talking about here, I don't know if you misunderstand
I'm not
what
going to
I'm trying to
regardless.
do.
I'm not
I'm
regardless.
not actually trying to bitch and moan. I'm actually trying to have a conversation to kind of reach to...
We are having a conversation.
I'm trying to reach to what we really perceive to be reality. And yes, the internet is a great place for that. I know you don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that. I think it's
the internet,
skewed.
Yes, it is skewed. But I think, through my observations, that a lot of people that are posting online are kind of conflating absolute reality, meaning what they live day to day, versus the internet, meaning that they're living with the internet. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if they're posting stuff, or they're an influencer, or if they're getting high on their own supply, I mean, that's why I pretty much don't. I mean, these people, I think, have a need. I think they may even have an insecurity that, if I get a lot of followers, that means people love me and I'm important and all that kind of stuff. Well, it depends.
The what is it called? The validation of...
Where they get validation of the numbers of people, and obviously that's what you want. You don't want like 3 thumbs up. You want 5,000 clicks, right? Don't you want people to don't you want people to see your stuff? That's the whole point of doing it.
Yeah, I want people to see it, but to reflect on what I'm talking about, not just liking or disliking.
Well, how will you know if they're reflecting? If you don't get clicks, if you don't get thumbs up, if you don't get comments, it's like,
obviously
this is what's funny. It's like Kinnico shows me these, postings from my Unification Church. It's like they got 1,000 little Chinese, Japanese babies jumping around like monkeys. Oh, they're so happy. They're so inspired. And then there's like 4 likes.
Yeah.
Like, seriously? All these people and only 4 likes? I think Kim Jong-un gets more likes. I'm serious. So I think it's like, what kind of bullshit is this?
Little Rocket Man.
Yeah. Little Rocket Man.
He might be a big Rocket Man now. You never know.
Well, he's opening up the beaches for
tourist area.
Love him.
I wonder.
This guy may, and I got to end with Kim Il-sung because my son knows Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman has been to, along with my son, yeah.
He's actually
because Kim Jong-un likes basketball.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Funny? I think that based off the story of Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman. And they made the movie The Interview with James Franco and Seth Rogen because there was a basketball scene there where they were like,
oh.
So I think, I'm not sure if that's true, but
I wonder if there had some connection. I mean
and how Kim Jong-un likes the Falling Through the Stars Katy Perry song. And they were singing it while
Katy Perry.
Yeah, while driving in a tank, and they were singing the song inside.
That's funny.
But going back to this, I understand that your perspective about the internet being fake. I really respect that. But the problem that I see is that it is happening.
I'm not saying that. Hold on. I'm not saying the internet is fake. You're putting words in my mouth.
My bad.
I'm saying it's just a sliver.
Okay.
Of a chunk. Of another sliver of somebody's reality, and what it represents in a general or holistic term, I have no idea, because you'd have to drill down as a science would, like, okay, we gotta see if is this valid, is this bullshit, is this posturing, is this how about a lie detector? Who knows? Because there's so many people out there
that
are just, full of it.
Like, do a lie detector and then start talking on the internet. I think that's fair.
Yeah, let's put a little lie detector thing down there.
What you're about to say,
at the bottom, real or not? And the things going up and down. And yes, I have quite a few boyfriends. You're a fat slob and you have no boyfriends.
You're a willy, as they call it.
Or what? A willy?
I think that's a term for a fat woman, like obese woman.
Really?
You're a fat
willy? A fat willy? Oh, you mean like Free Willy?
I thought it was junk originally.
You mean Free Willy?
Maybe Free Willy?
Free Willy is the
flappers.
The shark that had, what kind of shark was he?
Oh, the movie?
Yeah, Free Willy.
God, I think I saw that movie.
That's about what kind of shark is that? It's not a shark, a whale. It's an orca whale.
The big whale that they released in the ocean.
Orca whale, yeah. So maybe that's where that's from. But I did not hear it.
Came from.
I did not hear it.
I think.
Save the Whales.
About that. Shit, man, I was completely diverted. But we're
so how do you make love to a really obese woman? You know that one?
No.
Put flour and roll her until you find a wet spot.
What the fuck?
I can even attribute that to a brother who has passed into the spirit world. Okay.
That is crazy, because I think most men wouldn't mind having sex with a fat woman. But I think...
I have no idea.
I think a lot of men...
It's a little bizarre.
Yeah, because actually the numbers on obese women in America apparently are twice as much as men.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I'm like, are you telling me that men don't mind?
Okay, next question. Let's try to avoid. Let's try to avoid the weirdness. Yeah.
Shit, man. So we were talking about duties and responsibility, and then you were trying to tell me a bunch of reality checks. That's what you're saying.
Well, because I'm thinking you're getting a lot of information off the internet, which I think is really limited, as opposed to life experience. And Father said, the person with the most experience has got greater value, because that experience comes with knowledge, wisdom, information, experience, as opposed to the guy who sits and reads a book about all the stuff that you can do, but never gets up out of his reading chair. There's a whole different, okay, he can read about changing a flat tire, but unless he actually changes a flat tire, it's kind of theoretical. Okay, I kind of have an idea, but what if you're on a hill? What if you got traffic going by at 90 miles an hour? What if your jack slips? What if you don't have enough strength to take off the bolts? I mean, all this, the you know, the nuts. It's all this kind of stuff. So I'm just saying that stuff that's coming from the internet, I wouldn't trust it as far as you can throw it. I'm even more skeptical. You know, they used to say, I don't believe anything I hear and half of what I see. And then in the internet, it's nothing. Because it can be so manipulated.
I completely agree.
The news is manipulated, for crying out loud.
What do they call it?
And then people who get on the internet, who knows what they're trying to say.
Matthew,
I mean, like they like Joe Rogan, you know, he's kind of established himself as a person of integrity. And, you know, the people that he interviews and stuff like that.
I'm not saying I want to be like Joe Rogan, but I think his style is the most authentic.
Well, I think he's got his own way, and he's established, like I say, he's established credibility and for himself, because the way he interviews and when he calls out bullshit, you know, and people can see that. So in a way, that's good, hopeful information that people in general can see it too. It's not just there's a certain very, you know, high IQ, skeptical bunch of people that can really figure this out. In general, there's a lot of wisdom in the general population. Collective wisdom.
The average IQ of the average IQ in a man is 99. It's not that high.
How much IQ do you need? How much IQ do you need?
Logical conversation is probably like 80. No, my bad.
I have no idea.
No, it's probably like 60. They say that the Army won't recruit you if you have below 72 IQ.
Well, that's not saying much, but, you know, to have a conversation, you know, we're not building atomic bombs here. We're talking about men and women, which almost everybody has some experience because they came from a father and mother, even if they ended up in a nursery or a foster home or whatever. So...
Hear me out.
I have been hearing you out. I'm getting to the point where you got 12 minutes to close this up.
I think this is too much, but I do wanna say something that I think is kind of difficult to explain.
We'll see.
So as you know, I do a lot of research. I look at statistics. I look at graphs, trends, etc. One thing that I think is going to be completely new in the future is how little people will actually date, specifically men.
How little people will actually date? You know, this is something that has bothered me for about a nanosecond. And I'm glad you brought it up. Next. Shiminy Christmas.
All right.
The attraction between men and women, although it may wane and although it may shift and although there may be pendulums and stuff like that, it will never completely go away. And that's all we care about, because if there's only one man and women and the rest of them fall off the face of the earth, it's just like starting over.
I do wonder.
What the hell? And then if you go to the black part of town, you got no problem at all, motherfucker.
Everywhere.
Come on, man.
Bitches, lowriders. No, that's
or you go to the Hispanics, they like to have families. Catholics.
So I was actually trying to...
It's only the white people that have... It's only the white people that really have problems in that regard.
Well, are you talking about dating or having stable families?
I'm talking about having kids.
Like without
Muslims have kids all the time.
Yeah.
Statistically, they're going to take over the world.
That's true. That's true.
But it may take a few generations.
I'm also seeing a lot of trends that Christianity is reversing its trend from before. That they are actually going back to traditional Christian values.
You mean having more kids?
Yes, but also like the way they believe in Christianity is becoming more old school Christianity. For example, Orthodox.
I don't even know. You know, I don't even know what that means.
I'll have to pull the statistics.
I don't even know what that means, because you got the Catholics. That's a whole different realm of Christianity. Then you have about 140 denominations of Protestants.
Essentially, kick out all of those denominations.
And what do you got left?
You got Orthodoxy, you got Catholicism.
I don't think you have much in the way of Orthodoxy.
Orthodoxy
compared to Protestants?
That's true. There's not as many. But what I'm trying to say is that
you belong to an Orthodox church here?
I'm actually gonna go one this Sunday.
On this Sunday?
Yeah, that's between you and
Eastern
me, but
Orthodox? Greek
I
Orthodox?
think it is a Greek Orthodox.
Okay.
I gotta check them out. I wanna see what they are about in person.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
But what I was trying to say about religiosity is, and I think I briefly mentioned this in regards to, you kind of know if a church is gonna grow or not by which gender constantly goes to them. And I was thinking, I'm almost certain this is true, but
so the more women go, the more it grows.
no, the more women go to the church,
The less it
will
grows.
grow.
Oh.
And the more men are.
You know, I was
attracted
thinking
to
about
church.
that for about a nanosecond too.
I know you don't care.
Well, it's just like these are so, they're just.
I mean, we can observe this. Our church. I'm sorry about that. Our church.
Our church is such
I'm
a
just giving you
bizarre
something that we can
example.
grasp. Something you can grasp.
I can't grasp it. It's like grasping dust. Our church is nothing.
Okay.
It is absolutely
Let's
nothing.
take a Protestant church.
Our church is absolutely nothing. It's a little social club for old farts who gave up their lives for an idea that Reverend Moon presented to them.
Nothing else to
And maybe they have a good relationship with the kids. Maybe they don't. It's kind of a sad state of affairs. I personally feel very lucky because I thought, this church is a little bit of bullshit. There's a lot of ignorance here. And I'm not going to subject my children to it.
Okay. Here's a quick trend, though. Men are increasingly leaving non-denominational churches to join traditional Christian churches like Catholicism and Eastern Orthodox.
Okay. Fair enough. What about the Latter-day Saints?
They're not traditional.
Oh, they're not traditional? Okay.
They're basically new Christianity because I think they follow their so-called kind of Messiah.
Joseph Smith.
But I don't know what's going to become of them, honestly.
They're solid. They're going to be around for a while. They focus on the family. They got plenty of money. They're ambitious. They're smart. They're not going anywhere too soon. I mean, they've been around for a couple 100 years anyway.
I don't think you have to change which Christianity you are to kind of follow Christ. But I do think a lot of Christians, unfortunately, don't know what path to follow. They either believe in the emotional side of things or... like me.
It's interesting how you try to pigeonhole everything. Gross generalizations. You can shrug your shoulders all you want.
I mean, let's put it in
They
perspective.
still don't reach your earlobes.
Let's put it this way again.
Okay.
The people that you've observed that go to church. Our church is not
I don't
great.
go to church. The last time I went to church was a Catholic church. I went to Mark Wahlberg's Catholic Church in Vegas. Mark Wahlberg,
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, the dude. Now, the good news is he and Elon Musk and Mel Gibson are starting this $3 billion studio out in Vegas. Yeah, he's a very Catholic, very righteous dude. The actor. Who do you think I was talking about?
Dude, I am so sorry.
Who the hell were you thinking of?
Somebody else.
Some gay dude that's been to your club? Shit, man. God, I can't even have a conversation within you because it all leads back to that the confidence bar that we used to meet at. No, we gotta stop. Okay, so are we done? Can we stop here?
God, you hate me.
No. Oh, we still got 6 minutes. No, we got to go to Walmart and do some surveying.
Oh, that's true. You're gonna drive me, or should I just follow you?
No, we're gonna go in my car.
Okay.
Because I got to stop and take all the stuff to the open doors.
What are we gonna look at in Walmart specifically?
I have to take a couple things back.
No, like what are we observing?
Oh, we're just gonna walk around.
What are you trying to get information?
I don't know yet. We're just gonna walk around and see if we see anything of note. And we may be talking into our. Yeah, I just thought, God, she's
got. Fat bitch.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's a skinny dude.
This lady has no business wearing yoga pants.
Is it possible?
She should have a giant garbage bag on and just hang out in the parking lot and pick up litter.
I have seen a couple of instances where there's these like really scrawny dudes with really fat women. That's like, how does that
that's
work?
fine.
How does that work?
That's fine. I got a friend that's pretty much, Jack Sprat could eat no fat, his wife could eat no lean. You don't know that? And it's about a guy who's totally skinny. And Jack Sprat could eat no fat, his wife could eat no lean. She was this big porker, he's a skinny guy.
Yeah.
It's just a joke about a skinny guy with a fat girl. But it's probably 300 years old. And I have a friend who is skinny as a rail. His wife is rather plump. Not too plump, though.
I don't know how I personally would feel if my wife would be really fat. I think that would be impossible.
I couldn't deal with. I've never been attracted to overweight women. I kind of feel sorry for them, because God created women with these great curves, right? Yeah. And then when they get round, all them curves just go away, and that just becomes like one
with flaps
300-pound thing of pork sausage, you know.
Cornbread.
Butter would be better than, but it's pork sausage. And you know, they got them little fat toes sticking out at the bottom. That's the only way you know they're human beings.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, you know, and I kind of, when we're getting to the matching, right, you know, this is like, seriously, the only thing that I'm a little concerned about is Father's going to match me. No, Father's going to match me with an overweight woman.
To be your complimentary.
No, because I just don't find myself attracted to overweight women.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've repented about it.
Do you believe in the sentence?
However, if you show me a fat dude
and a skinny woman, oh, you got a winner right there.
That happens.
I know it does.
We're gonna do some. We got to stop at Lowe's, and then we're gonna go to Walmart.
I think. All right, let's do closing remarks. You do one, and I do one. Go ahead.
Okay. Closing remark is it's been very painful. It hasn't been enjoyable. I hope it's been elucidating, and I hope that from our conversation, there's a certain amount of wisdom can be gleaned. But really, I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm still gonna post the whole thing online.
That's fine. We haven't said anything that's except for we love Donald Trump.
MAGA, MAGA, MAGA.
Yeah, MAGA, MAGA, MAGA.
You're a mogul. What's that for Harry Potter?
We like AOC too, because she dances nice.
Apparently, she got a nice ass though.
Well, she's a very attractive woman.
Latina. What can I say?
She's a very attractive woman.
The big booty Latinas.
Oh yeah, didn't somebody make a thing a meme about that?
If all of the illegals were just big booty Latinas, we wouldn't deport them.
But there was some guy who was interviewing her as she's going up the Capitol steps or something, and she goes like, "Oh, that's my big booty Latina." And I think he talked to her.
Did you see that fake video where they put Elon Musk on one side and AOC on the other, just like agreeing with each other? It's like,
no, I have not.
It was like the most fake shit. We knew it was fake, but it was like this.
You know,
story.
she's you know she acts like, I mean, I was just reading something about how she's like, oh, I'm from the Bronx, you know, I'm down.
She's entitled, but
she's from Westchester, which is up where Father's house was, and that's all big money.
I'm sorry. Continue with the closing remarks.
Closing remarks was, I just hope that y'all find something interesting, enlightening, frightening.
Yeah.
There's certainly some frightening things about this conversation.
I think so.
And what's the other? Let's say joyful and fun.
Yeah, joyful and fun. Well, as the host of this podcast,
and I would like to apologize for making all the,
taking the thunder,
underhanded
comments
I've made towards Mr. Jonathan.
That's fine.
I think he's got a lot to grow.
I got a lot to grow, huh?
He's got to take his eyeballs off the internet and get out there and experience life. However you're going to do that.
All right. Closing remarks for myself. I have a very doom and gloom perspective for the future based on the trends that are currently going on. I think a lot of men are slowly quitting on their duties and responsibilities because they don't see any hope for the future. I think most men want to be in a loving, married house where they can take care of their family and they can have lots of children, essentially making a legacy. But I think increasingly that's becoming extremely hard for men. So they are kind of stuck in a hard place where they don't know what to decide anymore. A lot of men are unfortunately being raised by female leaders, whether that be their own families or school or the environment, so they don't know who to rely or trust on. So they have to rediscover what it means to be a man. But I do have hope for a lot of men because they're increasingly turning to old school religious beliefs, in this case Christianity. So I think there is hope there. And once they can discover Christ in this case, or if you're Islam, follow your own orthodox beliefs there. And men will be once again revitalized to follow traditional, classic, authentic masculinity, and they will know what to do from there on. And hopefully that will be a massive turning point for America. Let's see if we survive, first of all. But let's see if we don't get taken over by China, because you never know. I mean, a nation could invade us and that's the end of America. You never know. Regardless of all the jokes about the rednecks and the guns and the beach, but still, a nation could potentially overtake us. Plenty of movies out there to show that.
Yeah, and that's where we get our
White House down. What?
That's where we get. That's how, and that is how we have developed our beliefs. And once again, from Communist Misogynistic Radio, thank you for visiting. Don't take anything we've said seriously.
Actually, do take what I say seriously, because
and watch your backs, watch your six.
I guess.
Keep packing. Eat your cornflakes.
Your horniness ready cornflakes in your glyphosate infested corn. You're ready. Well, thank you. That's basically the end of this conversation.
I'm kind of curious. Okay.
I appreciate your time.
All right. Now we're going to go to Walmart and see if any of our...
If we see any fat bitches.
Gosh. Dang,
just
dude.
Just kidding. I mean, there could be men who are fat bitches. I mean, what was his name?
There's a lot.
Gabriel Iglesias. He always said he was a fat bitch.
Did he?
The comedian. He's like, yeah, we just look like a bunch of hot fat bitches when we were going down the slide, because all you could see were his man boots flapping up. And they asked him, who are these two women here? And it was him and his friend that were just obesity.
Hey, do you think Michelle Obama's getting a divorce?
Dude, I don't know.
She's rarely seen with Barack.
Look, I'll be honest with you.
I think Barack's gay.
I mean, that's what people have been saying forever.
Yeah. And then his bodyguard was more than just that.
I don't know. I mean, a couple of things really... I'm still recording, if that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
I always thought that their relationship was kind of odd, because Obama was saying at one point that Michelle was his boss. Either if that was a joke or realistic, it doesn't really matter. So I don't know really what kind of dynamic they have. Barack seemed like he was... I mean, he's tall, he's attractive, he's a good speaker. It looks like he ate very clean in the way he was eating. I have no idea what kind of religious affiliation he really has. There's speculation one way or the other. Doesn't really matter to me. But I don't know. I don't think he had a really good ground to stand on. He was always wishy-washy on a lot of issues.
Yeah, he was just a good talker. He never really said anything.
So I really don't know what to think about Obama. Hey, if they do divorce and Obama decides to pursue a specific path that includes moral values, kudos to him. But I have no idea if he's going to do that. I mean, he's ingrained with the Hollywood elite. I don't know what to think.
Oh, Barack?
Obama, yeah.
Oh yeah, he just wants to be up there with the right champagne.
I think he's that kind of person.
Yeah, he just wants to be around the beautiful people.
Yeah. Do you think
no
he's
fucking
having
surprise
a lot of
there.
bitches around him, Obama?
I don't know. I think you might have more.
Gay dudes.
Yeah, I think so. I think he likes lollipops.
Yeah, you never know. You really never know. I mean,
you never really know. I mean, look at how much they hid JFK's life.
It's true.
And Bill Clinton too. What a piece of dirt.
Okay, look.
And then Hillary.
Regardless of what they say about Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky sucked his dick.
Well, we don't know that.
I have never had sex with that woman. We all know you did.
No, we don't know.
On a fair note,
I was just thinking about. You
were attractive back in the day.
She's attractive today.
She is actually.
She's more attractive today than when she was a little fat girl. She was a little plump back then.
God, was she an
when she got the stain on her dress.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the whole story, really.
Yeah, either she she got the stain on her dress and she was smart enough to keep it as evidence.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When they said, "Oh, we got the blue dress, man, and we got your semen on it."
I don't know anything about that.
Seriously, and that's when Linda Tripp got involved, and somehow Monica knew Linda. Linda was involved somehow, and she kind of guided Monica through this minefield. Like, oh, you got to be careful because, the Clintons are the kind of people that will, make you disappear.
Yeah.
You know, it's like somebody said about Hillary Clinton. You know, I don't know what kind of person has 50 friends that disappeared. Talking about Hillary.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. Did you shut it off?
Not yet.
Yeah, shut it off.
Thank you for your time.
And then we're gonna take a little. We're gonna take a reality check at Walmart.
Through Walmart to see if we see any skinny people, fat
Oh,
people.
look at this. Former Long Island congressman and fierce gun control advocate, dead at 81. And she looks like she might be a candidate for being a LGBT